Hi, you're listening to the Diablo Podcast. We are online at diablopodcast.com, and this week we are talking about followers, the newly announced, newly revealed feature. I am speaking with a couple of our regular guests. We have DiablosMinion. Say something insightful, Diablo. Good. Excellent job. And now it's your turn, Wolfpaq. Even better. Okay, so followers were revealed just this past week, revealed inadvertently on Thursday when the Korean Diablo 3 site, where they don't appear to have calendars or daylight savings time, and constantly release features before they're meant to go public at all. They did the same thing with the Monk at BlizzCon 2009. An hour before the show, suddenly the Monk was on the internet, and it wasn't even the opening ceremonies yet. So, you know how much trouble it is for you to try to figure out what time it is, like in Korea or someplace where it's 18 hours later? Apparently it's even more difficult if you're in Korea. But yes, so they
good with math.
maybe it's the metric system or something. They can't convert it into our English calendar system. Anyway, so we got the full followers reveal on Friday, and we're not really going to try to explain the whole system here because there's a lot of details to it. We're just sort of assuming that you have some knowledge of it, that you've read the news posts and maybe even seen some of the forum threads, which are very long and very argumentative. And we're going to get into that today because both DM and Wolfpaq are not big fans of the follower system as implemented, as explained by Bashiak and Jay Wilson and other people in interviews. So hopefully you know something about the followers, because we're not going to explain everything about it. They're kind of like mercs, except you don't have to pay them, and they're really helpful and powerful, and they have awesome, cool skills, and they're only useful through normal difficulty, which is what most people are a little unhappy about. So if you can cast your mind back a little bit, guys, I'll ask you first, DM. You saw the video on Thursday, I guess.
Yeah.
Before we had all the full details and information.
Mm-hmm.
And all we saw was the video. They looked really cool. They had these skills. They're running around. What was your initial reaction to that before you got all the details on Friday?
I watched it twice. My first instinct was, that's pretty cool. That's one more less thing we have to know before the beta comes out. You know. The second time I watched it, I kind of took an analytical approach at it, and I thought, well, they did that to probably make our characters look even better, you know. Like I said that they wanted to make our characters feel powerful. And Templar has a skill that was kind of like a leap attack, but wasn't. So then, next to the Barbarian, he seemed inferior. But
it's like a skip attack.
Yeah.
And what was your first thought, DM? Wolfpaq, before you saw all the full details?
I was just really excited because Mercenaries were a big part of Diablo 2, and I really enjoyed the feature. And to me, it looked like an extension of the character building you were going to be allowed to do, in the fact that here's 4 different choices of 3 different skills, and there's 5 item slots for you to fill in. 5 or 6, I guess. There's a special item slot unlocks at level 25. But the more variety there is to Diablo 3, I think the better, the longer it'll last, the more replayability. So, I was really pumped and excited.
And then Friday came, and the other shoe dropped, and we got all these long, information-filled interviews, which all made it sound pretty cool, and I was still pretty interested in those myself at that point. And then Bashiak started making a bunch of forum posts Friday afternoon and made more on Saturday, in which he mostly explained that he was largely defending the feature and explaining that it wasn't overpowered because they were only going to be useful in normal. And apparently they either stop leveling up at 25 or they just don't get any stronger, or in some way they're going to become weak in Nightmare, and then the designed theory is that they're pretty much useless in Hell.
Yeah.
And is that what you got out of that, Wolfpaq, and how did you feel once you had the full information?
Yeah, no, that is definitely what I took from the things that Blizzard was posting, or Bashiak was posting, and it was just really disappointing. But from my perspective, I'm a hardcore Diablo fan. I've played Diablo 1 all the way through, Diablo 2 all the way through. I've been following Diablo 3 for years now. But yeah, it seems to me like if it's single player only, if it's normal difficulty only, it's just a really cool sounding, cool looking system that is going to be very, very restricted to only a small part of the game. And my hopes that this is another way to have variety and another way to build your character, and just were dashed immediately. And it's just disappointing, really.
And what was your reaction to that, DM?
It was kind of mixed. Mix of disappointment and I don't know what the other feeling is. will remain nameless, but just, the mercenaries were such a big part of Diablo 2, and to have them kind of shafted when we got more information, it just kind of felt like almost like a betrayal.
Like a betrayal and a burial, actually.
Yeah.
So what do you guys, you've read Bashiok's defenses of the system. I mean, are there any of those that you think ring true, or do you think it's all just making excuses? I thought the kind of the concept that it adds a lot to the single player game, and it adds a lot to the beginners. It's really a feature meant to help new people get into the game, it seems like. And I don't see that that's a bad thing. It's just, we just wish they were scaled up and became powerful on Nightmare in Hell as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no reason that it can't do both. These are supposedly very important characters to the quest line. These are characters you meet who make sarcastic, witty remarks as they follow you along in battle, and so you're essentially getting, I don't know if attached is the right word. This isn't a traditional RPG for sure, but they're just creating these awesome characters and then just bailing them after one difficulty. And I mean, really, Diablo is 3 full difficulties, and normal difficulty is only 1/3 of the game, no matter how you're looking at it. Sure, some people quit games before you're done with them, but I don't know if it's the right choice to make design decisions around systems to solely reach out to those people who are going to stop before they finish the game.
Any point on that, DM?
I'm sorry you're going to have to edit this out, but I just got Wolfpaq's picture. And that's
we can talk about it. It's really obnoxious, right?
That's the exact face I made when I saw it.
I have to post this on the Diablo podcast post.
Oh,
here's what Wolfpaq looks like. So what is your explanation for this picture, Wolfpaq, just for DM's benefit?
Okay, so I have a friend who thinks that I act like a immature frat boy occasionally, and it's probably true.
Well, from the picture.
Yeah, so, and I haven't, these honestly, these aren't my sunglasses. My buddy left them at my place, and so I was like, okay, here's my chance to take a picture of myself looking completely obnoxious, and I took advantage of it, and I posted it on there just to harass the person who thinks...
Me and Flux?
No. Honestly, I'm probably going to change the picture now.
Is that a rat cage behind you in the picture?
Chinchilla cage, actually.
And when they die, will you make a pair of gloves?
No. My wife would be very upset if I did that.
Do not wear our kitty?
No.
Okay, well, I guess if you don't mind, we can put this picture up on the post. You're fine by it.
Go nuts. I'm fine with it.
Okay. Well, I'll try and get a more obnoxious picture next time.
I don't know if that's possible, but good luck with that.
Okay.
You might need to go to a site that has goats in the domain name, but let's not mention that.
How did you get my picture? Because I still see a question mark for you.
That's all he has, the question mark.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll get one. Don't worry.
He's a man of mystery.
All right.
So we were, before we digressed there, we were talking about that before we were recording, actually, and that we in Diablo wasn't getting the picture from Wolfpaq, and I guess it finally came through.
Yes, it was scary.
It had to be approved by the censors, I guess.
I jumped back a little bit and...
It'd have been good if you'd been like in mid-sentence, and you'd be like, oh my god, what's that?
I refrained from doing that. I bit my lip and everything.
So we were talking about the followers being sort of a waste for... It seems like a really cool feature, and it's only for normal, is kind of what Wolfpaq's opinion is.
Yeah.
And also wanting mercenaries or followers or whatever you want to call them later in the game as well.
Yeah.
And would you kind of concur with that, DM, or do you have a different take on it?
Yeah, I mean, they said that they want them to, supplement your character in some of the weak spots, so what better place to do that than Nightmare in Hell, when you're going to need it.
Apparently, the better place is in normal, where you don't need anything in difficulty. It's too easy.
Oh yeah, that's what kind of drove me crazy. I mean, they said it's easy enough to beat by yourself, but they're going to throw in extra help just because, and then they're going to, add all that story and all that time and not put it in the rest of the game. It'll be there, but you just can't use them. I guess that's how it'll be. Just gotta leave them in town.
One of the things we've talked about on this podcast before, possibly with you two, but it's definitely come up other times, is the Blizzard's kind of social networking promotional efforts, where the main point is that, you know, their Facebook and their Twitter are not really for us. They're not really for the serious fans who want game info.
Yes.
You know, we want stuff like the followers. We want, you know, the Jay Wilson interviews, we want screenshots and stuff. And we can all kind of accept that they have to market the game to people who aren't already really following fan sites and aren't really hooked. But it seems like the followers are an actual feature intended for those people. And I don't have any objection to them putting special stuff in normal to make it more interesting or to kind of to suck in new players and stuff. It just seems unfortunate that they're ending them there, you know? Like I think Wolfpaq said a minute ago, they could have done both.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know their explanation is this is for the casual person who isn't playing with their friends, but I actually have a major problem with both of the restrictions, normal difficulty and single player only. I feel that this could be they took the time to code 36 different skills and to balance them to some degree. I mean, no one's asking for mercenaries to be killing machines, but it would be really nice if they took this development time and used it to create an extension of your characters, one that doesn't disappear when you decide, oh, I think I'm going to play with my friends right now.
You got anything on that, DM?
Sorry, I was staring at his sunglasses.
Yeah. Are you unable to take any of his points seriously now that you've seen what he looks like?
Bobby's eyes, Bobby's eyes.
We can post one of those too. So just as a sort of an aside on this, do we think this is just kind of a sugar pill for the expansion? And they're going to get to the expansion and say, hey, guess what? Now we're going to make the followers really good through Nightmare in Hell, and they're going to add new skills, and they're going to be awesome.
I can see them doing that. Yeah.
I hope so.
I mean, would that feel like a bait and switch, or we're going to buy the expansion anyway, so they might as well have cool features in it? But
yeah, I'll end up buying it regardless, but what they do with the mercenaries, or followers, is up to, we'll see.
And Bashiak made a number of posts, throwing up figures about, some tiny % of people only ever play through the whole game. There was somebody in our forums, I forget who was making the point about it, that if you look at you can look on Steam and see the achievements people have earned from playing Torchlight. And 80% of people never even finish Torchlight on normal difficulty. So I have no idea how that extrapolates to Diablo players. But if 80% or some high percentage of people never even finish normal, then I can certainly see why Blizzard and the developers would want to put in features to make normal more fun and to make normal more, maybe to make it even easier, etc. I mean, it's easy for you and I and, for the three of us because we play the game a lot. But
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I see their point. I think with the Torchlight being on the Xbox, that's a little bit different.
I think this is Steam from PC though.
Oh, okay.
It's not just Xbox.
Okay then. Well,
but still. But I mean, Bashiak has made comment. He didn't actually put figures, but their argument. Yeah. So I'm just going to run down some of the pros here from people. I mean, I was expecting more people to say what you guys are saying, and that was my initial reaction as well. But a lot of people seem very not upset by this and actually pretty happy about the system. And one of the main points people are making is they just didn't want mercs at all, and they're happy that this keeps mercs out of Nightmare in Hell, or keeps mercs from being a major in-game feature. And obviously that's just something you two are just temperamentally opposed to, because you like mercenaries and you want them to be part of the end game.
Kinda. I'm 50-50 on it. 70-30.
But you definitely wanted mercs in the whole game there, Wolfpaq.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I loved mercs in Diablo 2, and when I first saw the YouTube video for this, I thought, oh, great, they're coming back for D3, but they're not at all. It's not. It's just such a small, slim area of the game where these are going to be useful. It just seems like I mean, I can see their point, wanting to make more people want to hop online, play with real people, but it seems like a waste.
Yeah, that's one of my little bullet point lists here, that the mercenaries make the game too easy, and that if there are mercenaries, then you kind of have to use them, or else you're sort of gimping yourself. It's like playing a build that's not very powerful. So if you have mercenaries in the end game, and they're useful, then you kind of are forced to use them whether you like it or not.
I completely disagree with that line of reasoning, because obviously in Diablo 2, mercenaries were useful in the end game, but of the 4 or 5 characters that I played regularly in hell difficulty, only a couple of them actually used a mercenary. The rest, they would just die too easily. I didn't have the time to gear them up, so I just didn't even bother with them, and I was still able to kill fine and quickly. So I just don't agree with that reasoning.
Yeah, another point they've made is that they think that mercs will increase and encourage people to play more multiplayer, and that seems like there's kind of two angles to that. Now, what Bashiak said in a number of posts was that it would get people used to playing with other entities, other assistants, and then they would see that and think, oh, I want this with real people, and they would go online to get that. Do you see that as a valid concept, DM?
Yeah, I mean, more noobs the better,
But do you think it'll actually work?
I could see it working for some people and
not working for others.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people have never really played an action RPG on the computer or if it consoles, whatever. And, they'll probably start it up and play a single player and they'll see that the followers will, be a big part and they might want to try it. But other people won't. And I can see about maybe half and half of it working, not working.
So what do you think, Wolfpaq? If you're a new player on Diablo 3 and you're using this follower and then he becomes useless at some point, is that going to make you want to go get on Battle.net and play with real people, or are you just going to get pissed off that your follower is useless?
Yeah, it's really hard for me to give an accurate description because I've been playing multiplayer games forever. When I start up Diablo 3, I'm not going to be doing any single player.
Yeah.
It's just I at some point you got to say, okay, what is the audience that's going to be buying Diablo 3? Are these people who have never played online games before? Are these people who just are they shooting for a broader audience that are just never played? I mean, I feel like at this point in time, games are trending more and more and more toward multiplayer because everyone likes spending time with their friends and playing games with their friends, and I don't know how much the followers are going to be an inspiration to play online as opposed to other things like Facebook and Twitter, which they're already integrating to, where friends can tell their friends, oh, this game's really fun that I'm playing. I feel like that's an incredibly strong, much stronger motivating factor than just seeing a follower in the game become worthless. Like if I'm playing single player and my follower becomes worthless, I'm like, okay, revise my build a little bit and just stop taking them. I feel like if you want to play online, you're going to be playing online as soon as you get the game.
You brought. Yeah, go ahead, DM.
I was going to say I agree with him on the whole multiplayer and how everyone's wanting to be more with friends and.
So just expanding on something that Wolfpaq just brought up and that you mentioned also. So we probably should have mentioned this right at the start. But what are you guys planning to do when Diablo 3 is first released? Are you going to play single player and learn it, or are you going to get online and play with friends right off the bat?
Scream like a girl, then probably play online.
Yes. Yeah, online for sure.
So you're not looking to go single player, explore the whole story, etc. Which is kind of what the point in followers is to some degree. It seems like.
Maybe eventually to go see what they add after them. Well, when we first started up, we're gonna have to play the story anyway. But I'll end up playing the followers just to see how funny they said they were going to be. And
at some point, I would like to see what the followers are up to. But for my first playthrough, assuming multiplayer games are going to have higher monster levels, better item drops, more items, obviously, because when two of us kill one boss, we both get the loot. So you say, hey, what'd you get? I got this. You got that. It's just a better experience playing a multiplayer. So I'll have beaten the game probably before I go back and focus on only going through normal in single player to actually experience what the hirelings have to offer. Unless, of course, they're changed.
So it sounds pretty clear that the three of us are not really the target audience for followers and for things to help ease us into the game and to find friends online.
Yeah.
At some point, you will play the single player just to see what extra story the followers provide and experience what that's like.
Yeah, I don't feel that's fair. All them hours they put in, the voice acting, and for people like us just to go straight to multiplayer, and not experience it, but we have to mentally take the time to go do it. I don't think that's too fair to the people that put all the time into it.
As a sort of an aside, if you'd made a top 10 list of things missing from Diablo 2, were sarcastic NPCs on that list? They seem to be selling that as a point, He's a guy and he follows your end and he makes sarcastic comments about your actions. And I wasn't really aware of missing that, to tell you the truth.
No.
I mean, the occasional, my Amazon saying it's hot down here, or, where would I put this? That kind of fulfilled my needs for, may you rest in peace, whatever the paladin said at some point.
Yeah.
And like Vashiok's, people said that it's not good in multiplayer because then you'll have 8 characters on the screen, and God knows we couldn't have 8 characters on the screen in a Diablo game. What would that be like? Oh wait.
There were 16 in Diablo 2, and it was fun.
Yeah, I don't remember. Good thing there weren't any. You couldn't summon like 20 skeletons or monsters at the same time in Diablo 2. That would have really been confusing. Thank God they didn't have any features like that.
Or what about like 100? I mean, before the
I don't know.
patch or something.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that would have been like. I'm glad they didn't have anything like that in the series before now. Good thing they fixed those problems. So, yeah, but then also he mentioned that it gets annoying if you have like 4 of them all kind of making the same comments at once. I'm like, well, if only there was some way to mute your obnoxious followers. That seems like a little easier fix than, removing them from the game entirely. But,
yeah, I mean, why would you expect to hear your players in the game with you? Why would you expect to hear their followers' comments? I mean, you wouldn't hear them making their comments in the game when they walked into the Den of Evil or something. So, yeah, I don't get that. And I also don't get the crowdedness issue that apparently a lot of people have with the gameplay videos. I mean, I haven't played the game yet, but from what I've seen, it's very clear what's going on. And if you really care about what one person is doing, you can follow that person, or you can just see the mess, the slaughter that gets left behind after 4 people roll through it. So, yeah, I don't understand the crowdedness issue.
And as we've pointed out, sarcastically, that was obviously a major feature of Diablo 2, and that we didn't seem to mind it too much.
Yeah.
I'll have to give you credit, Wolfpaq. I don't know how you see anything with those sunglasses on.
We have to call a moratorium on Wolfpaq avatar jokes here at some point.
Yeah. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
Dude, only cool people play games with sunglasses on.
Yeah.
Come on.
So another one of the pros, it's a common complaint for expert players like ourselves, the truly skilled amongst us,
the pros,
gods among men, is that the game gets too easy once you have a really good build and good equipment and good characters. One sort of an ironic pro is that if they don't allow you to have followers in Nightmare in Hell, it will make the game more difficult. I guess you could say you could make it more difficult by making the right mouse button no longer work either, but that would also make it very hard. And not be a whole lot of fun. So that's kind of an arguable point, but it is one way to raise the difficulty, and it's also, they've done all this work to make it harder to get Magic Find and harder to carry around bonus stats. And that's what a lot of us did with our followers in Diablo 2. Even if you didn't need them for killing power, you just get a Holy Freeze Merc or whatever, he'd just slow stuff down and make you survive more, and he'd have 200% Magic Find on him and let him get boss kills. So I guess in a way you can look at the followers as increasing the difficulty or increasing the skill required for expert players on higher difficulty levels.
That's a fair point, I think.
Or is this, that's making it more difficult kind of by accident, It's like denying us features instead of just making the monsters smarter and hit harder.
Well, we know how hard monsters can hit, those bugged multiple, affect enemies running at you and you just die one hit. I don't think that's a effective way to make something harder. So if something is more tactically harder that you can overcome just by doing something different, I'm all for that.
And one other point that sort of relates to another pro point is they've said that followers will encourage us to play with other people, and we're all a little bit dubious about that. Your follower goes away, therefore you want to go play online. But knowing that you're not going to have mercenaries of any use in Nightmare in Hell seems like it will encourage you to play with other people, because the game is supposed to be harder. You're supposed to need party play to succeed, and if you don't have an NPC to assist you, then you're going to need other people. I don't know if I can entirely endorse removing game features that are fun in order to make us depend upon each other more. That's like removing the life rafts from a boat, saying that you can cling together in the water. Well, find a fat guy and he'll float, I guess. But that doesn't I'd rather have the lifeboat personally. So, do you guys buy that logic at all?
I feel like Diablo should definitely not become World of Warcraft in the sense that in order to beat the hardest content, you need to have a balanced group. Once you have a very solid set of legendaries, and once you have a very well thought out build with the correct skill runes and the correct traits and a good set of talisman charms, like I feel like you should be able to solo hell difficulty with or without a follower, because what's the point of having a game like Diablo if you can't be mowing down enemies eventually? Like, what are you working toward if even once you have the best gear in the game, you still have to rely on one or two other people in order to kill everything? I'm hoping that they're not balancing it with that in mind. Yeah.
I think they've said that they're going to make it where you can play with, by yourself, but they're encouraging, quote unquote, co-op gameplay, just for the simple fact that you get on people online and whatever.
Yeah, no, I'm all for encouraging co-op play. I hope that it's not balanced to the point where it's absolutely necessary to beat the game on hell difficulty to have a 4-person team with balanced spell damage, melee damage, etc.
Yeah, I'd be extremely disappointed then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get raid content kind of stuff. You absolutely have to have other people. But they have said they want to make it harder and make you require assistance and friends. And, maybe it's not impossible alone, but if you have a friend or if you have a really powerful mercenary or a follower, then you could make do with, 200% more magic find kind of thing.
Yeah. I'd be cool with that.
I mean, one of the, we're not really doing a magic find podcast today, although we probably will at some point, but one of the, I love Magic Find. I was very fond of it, Diablo 2. But one of the main complaints people have about it is that the game is too easy and it's unbalanced in terms of which characters, you can put all the MF you want on like a sorceress or a necromancer and still kick ass, whereas like a barbarian or, a melee character can't really do it that much.
Well, I think they've alleviated some of that. You know better than us because you've played it, but they're doing the spell damage stuff on the items.
Yeah.
Instead of
I've only played in normal, and as we know, normal is meant to be really, really easy, so...
Yeah, I don't think the people who are saying those things really played Barbarian very much. That's just my opinion. Dual-wielding Alibabas with Ist runes and a Merc with tons of Magic Find. Barbarians had the highest Magic Find potential in the game.
True, but we're not, that's not really okay, whatever, we might as well debate it. But you couldn't, take on Baal with dual Alibabas. I mean, you could switch to that for maybe the final hit.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Of course, we don't have a weapon switch anymore either, so that's another thing that's going.
Put that on the list.
I think we've kind of clubbed into submission the whole general concept of followers. Any other points on that you guys wanted to make before we get into a little more specific follower details?
A little bit upset. Kinda, that you can't really do their appearance. They're just gonna have a strict look. But maybe that'll change, I don't know. But I'm glad they can have more than one type of weapon, like Diablo 2.
Just because the system is how it is now doesn't mean it's going to be like it forever. If enough people get feedback in beta or after the game's been released, there's a hope for a future patch or expansion that'll actually turn them into the kind of character building system that could be used throughout the game, and I'm hoping that happens. But if it doesn't, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, there are numerous game features that are pretty much just for the end game. They haven't really told us about them yet, but they've hinted that there's going to be bonus content. You're not just going to be doing the same boss run over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's not horrible that there's some feature just for beginning content. We just kind of wish it was something else. Overlooking our objections to the whole implementation of the system. Do you like the followers? Do you like the different skills? Do you like that they're customizable, the AI and stuff? Or is this conversation just going to make you guys bitter that we can't use them in hell?
I think I like it. I mean, more than one skill, obviously, than D2, and instead of just charging aimlessly into the pack of monsters, better AI is always welcome, I guess.
Yeah, I like them a lot. More gear variety, more skill variety. I just, like you said, wish we could use them in multiplayer and outside of normal difficulty.
Yeah, we actually know all of the names of their skills. People were able to freeze frame the video and get the names, and those are actually all on the wiki pages now. But we don't have descriptions of all the skills, so it's kind of a guessing game. It's to some degree what they're going to do. But it seems like the concept is, they have 4 tiers of skills and 3 skills on each, and you can pick one of those. And it seems like every tier there's like at least one attack and at least one kind of buff or passive sort of skill. And the way it seems like it works is you can assign which skills you want, and their AI is affected by the skills they have. It's not that you can tell them to be passive or be aggressive or to stay, behind you kind of stuff. But if you give them, like a Nova kind of skill, they'll get closer to use that versus if they have, a projectile that's got full screen range, they'll stand way back.
Yeah.
Or if they've got a skill that boosts your defense or boosts your offense, then that's something that they'll use instead of giving them another attack skill. Just like if you really like this one attack skill, you can give them that and then 3 sort of passives or buffs, and they'll just obviously keep using that one attack skill. That's all they've got. So I think it's pretty cool in that way that you can control kind of how they do. I mean, how many times did you just want your stupid Merc in D2 just to stay the hell behind you and give you his aura, It's like, get away from the Bloodlords. Jesus Christ, get away from the Bloodlords, And they just wouldn't.
Run across map to go kill somebody. What'd you do that for?
Yeah, or you're trying to get the last shot on the boss and they're shooting a treasure chest, or they're shooting a trapped soul in Act 4 for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be useful. Obviously, more AI and more controls is not something any of us will object to when it comes to our followers.
No, we won't, but I mean, again, it's not going to matter a whole lot, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of... Yeah, go ahead, DM.
I was going to say, I'm glad they didn't have the actual commands of attack, passive, and whatnot. That wouldn't feel like a Diablo game to me. It's It's just, it's not Diablo. It's, there's no stances. It's just get up and smash and shoot and that's it, At least to me.
I agree.
One thing that I was worried about when they first gave us the details, before we knew they weren't going to be viable in Hell anyway, is that you can't actually heal them directly. They only heal when you hit a health globe. And of course, I forget which interview it was, but somebody mentioned it was so hard to heal followers in Diablo because you had to click and drag potions. And of course, as I'm sure we all remember, you'd actually just hit Shift 1, 2, 3, or 4 to feed your Merc.
Yeah.
Nobody took time to click and drag potions except for noobs or Diablo 3 developers, it seems to be one and the same term when it comes to Diablo 2 facts in many cases.
Yeah.
And if they were actually viable in Hell, I would be worried that I couldn't heal them intentionally. It seems like that would be really a pain in the ass.
Well, since they don't really die, I mean...
Yeah. But you don't want them, you lose the benefits of whatever skills whatever buffs they're giving you when they take their nap.
Yeah.
You don't want nap time in the middle of Diablo when you're relying upon your Enchantress to give you, lower resistance to... But, as we've said, that's kind of irrelevant because they're going to be gone anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other, I think, what did you guys think about their sort of ultimate skill of, the ultimate item they're searching for in their quests? And it's, it's the unlocked thing at level 25.
I think I made a post about this. It's hilarious that you get the item and 3 levels later, or 5 levels later, it's worthless. You're like, well, I hope you have a good 5 levels because then I'm going to Nightmare.
Did you guys ever play Nox?
Briefly.
It was an old, it was a Diablo clone, it was only single player initially, and it was non-random, so you would go through the whole game finding better and better items, and finally before you got to the last boss battle, you found this epically awesome, cool items. And of course then you got to use them for one fight and the game was over. It's like, god damn it. There was no Nightmare or Hell, so once you got those items, the game was over. And you couldn't backtrack really, there weren't waypoints, so it was you finally got, the epic sword of awesomeness, and you get to kill one thing with it and you're done. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So that's I guess that's kind of the follower's special ultimate item.
Yep.
But they mentioned, I think it's kind of cool. I mean, the concept of followers is cool, but as we've said 100 times already, what's the point when they're not useful in Nightmare or Hell? But I do like that they're questing for this one item, and once they find it, it boosts their stats in some way, even though it's not really an item. I mean, the Templars is some kind of a book that apparently it boosts attack skills and boosts damage weapons. damage of your weapons. And the crossbow guy, the scoundrel, gives you something that boosts your gem find and your rune find, which sounds awesome.
So what I think is, people will have him and just go around on normal and just find a bunch of gems and then upgrade gems. But if you can take them into Nightmare or Hell, but they just won't live long, I mean, if you can, do it, I'm sure this will happen. You get them equipped enough, or you get good enough, your character gets good enough, and all that extra magic find or whatever, rune find, you can take it through Hell and you get all that extra stuff, that easy, more easily.
Yeah, one of the first posts about that, somebody in the comments said challenge accepted up to that point, how they're not meant to be useful in Nightmare or Hell. And I'm like, that's going to be fun. I mean, obviously your first thought is, well, my first thought at least was, get a witch doctor, lots of mongrels, and get a follower who stays back.
Yeah.
And they're kind of behind your meat shield, and you've got strong spells. Can it be that hard to keep them alive?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, unless the monsters target them first, I mean, I don't know. I mean, an enchantress behind a barb, I don't know.
They do have AI in the game where they target the ranged attackers first, some monsters. So it's not like you can just stand back and always be safe with an artillery character. And in theory, that would apply to mercs as well. I mean, obviously the Templar is going to be out in front getting chopped up, but it seems like the other two, it seems like they'd be more possible. It's like a rogue to mercs in Diablo 2.
Yeah, and I think also, as we get better and better gear, it'll help as well. I mean, they've hinted, I don't think they've outright said this yet, but they've hinted that they're not just going to be releasing new gear during expansions. Like, they're probably going to be having major patches that introduce new gear. And I know that if we didn't have access to 1.10 rune words, mercenaries in Diablo 2 would not be as useful as they are in the current end game of Diablo 2. So who knows, maybe in patch 1.5 of Diablo 3, there's a handful of items released that, given to mercenaries, will drastically increase their survivability, and then they could be more useful.
It's going to be interesting to see if the followers in D3 if people are really using all of them, or, I mean, everybody just pretty much used them, the aura mercs in Diablo 2. Just because having an aura was such a benefit to your overall everything.
Yeah, and the aura went up in level so high, too, with the mercenaries level.
And we wonder if one of we don't know the skills well enough to really say at this point, but maybe everyone will just want the enchantress because she has a lower resistance debuff or something like that.
Yeah.
And of course the sexy belly button.
Of course.
And that's the whole reason, man. Well, I'm sure that if one of them gets too overpowered, they do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, items aren't the only thing that'll save it, because you still need the motivation to play by yourself and not with your friends, and we don't know yet how Magic Find, how scaling is going to work for item drops in 2-player games versus 1-player, or 4-player games versus 1-player, so it's possible that even with a mercenary loaded with Magic Find and with the Magic Find skill, that it's still not giving you as good of drops as it would be to be in a 4-player game, even if your Magic Find isn't as high. So,
yeah, do we like the concept where they're not? I mean, you can have mercenaries and multiplayer characters, just not when you're playing with anybody else in your game.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just for the listeners, I'm mostly pointing that out. We're aware of that, but
okay.
Do we like the idea? It seems like that would almost encourage you to play solo sometimes early on. Like maybe you like your mercenary more than you get more utility out of a mercenary than you do out of somebody else in your game.
They don't talk back.
Well, they apparently they do talk back.
Yeah. This is bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there? I don't know. Obviously we don't want to slander their plot writing and dialogue writing, but is there any chance we're not really wishing we could mute our mercenaries after like the first game? It's going to be like a guy behind you in a movie theater shouting, "Don't go in there!" when you see someone in a horror movie, the dark room. Oh, girl, stay out of there.
I think it depends how clever they are.
One of the other things I thought was funny is a Jay Wilson quote. Somebody asked him why we can't have multiple followers. And this is an actual quote of him. What we found is when you have to manage the items and abilities of a follower, having two feels a little overwhelming. It wasn't the direction we wanted to go in. Am I alone in feeling a little insulted by that?
Well, it's not the first comment they've made making it sound like they're dumbing down Diablo 3, but I don't think it's that bad.
My immediate reaction was, this is another example of Jay Wilson saying, something's not in Diablo 3 because you people are too stupid to use it. This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, the stupid W button, I can't find it. What happened to my weapons?
I guess we're kind of resigned to what we're getting from Mercenaries. Do you think, is there any chance they're going to change this before the game? I don't think doesn't seem like that's likely.
Yeah, I think they said they were pretty set in stone, but...
We can always hope.
Yeah.
Submit lots and lots of beta feedback saying you don't like it.
Yeah, but the beta, I don't think we're going to have more than Act 1 and more than normal difficulty anyway. So it's really going to be once the game comes out, if maybe we get a hue and a cry about Mercenaries are cool, why are they useless in Nightmare?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And maybe that's Blizzard's plan all along, just to build up desire for Mercenaries and an expansion being more kick-ass.
Yeah, could be.
Well, plus there's 2 expansions planned at least, so maybe the first expansion they'll be good in Nightmare, and then it'll take until the second expansion before they can go to Hell.
That wouldn't make sense. That doesn't really make sense to make it just viable in Nightmare.
That doesn't make sense to make it viable in Normal?
Well, I'm saying Normal and then just Nightmare and then kind of gimp out on Hell. I don't know.
Yeah, Bobby's eyes. Bobby's eyes.
I have nightmares.
Nightmares about Nightmare.
One thing I am happy about with the Mercenaries is by naming one of them Templar, they've shown that they're not totally afraid of bringing in the sort of religious terms that were littered in the first and the second. So I'm hoping that one of the expansion characters will be some sort of paladin, Templar, Crusader kind of deal, because that's one archetype that I feel is really missing from the original 5 classes.
We got the monk. He's kinda. He's got 1,001 gods. I'm not sure if that's what it is.
Well, I was thinking more of just like the armored,
knight,
zealous knight kind of deal.
Sword shield kind of dude.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lack of shield skills.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there were only 3 in Diablo 2. They were just really good skills.
Yeah, very good.
Oh.
I mean, you had Smite, Holy Shield, and was that it? Is there even any other shield skills? So really, it was just Smite. Smite was just the knockback stun, and Holy Shield. Was there anything else? Really, Diablo 2 had 2 shield skills, but they were just really useful skills. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole line of character-specific shields as well. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, true. It was a very useful item slot.
Yeah.
Sorta. It was alright.
Well, if you were a paladin, it was useful. Well,
yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest overpowered things in D2 was blocking. I mean, it was basically 75% physical damage reduction.
Yeah.
That was complete negation of damage, too.
Yeah, and, you could get good blocking and dodge on Amazon, and you're taking like 4% of hits just from 2 skills, from a skill and a shield.
Yep. But
we all learned to play with that, so that's one of the things that's interesting in D3 is that shields only absorb, X amount, 10 to 15 damage or something. Varying by the shield type, and then that is also weighted by your blocking percentages. So it seems like that's making shields much less powerful, which, by the same coin, makes 2-handed weapons much more viable.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, but I still don't think it would be a bad thing to have a class with a couple shield skills in them.
So, do you guys have a favorite follower? We have Lyndon the Scoundrel, Cormac the Templar, and Irina the Medieval Barbie.
I like the Templar personally, just because I was planning to play a wizard, and my first thought when I saw Templar is, awesome, someone to gather the monsters for my Blizzard/Meteor.
Yeah.
But that was before I found out that I'll never be using them. Or, for serious play. Long. Yeah.
You have a preference there, DM?
Not really, but if I had to choose, probably say the Enchantress because of that belly button.
I don't think it'll be visible in the game, sadly, so... Yeah, she's nice in the concept art. The actual in-game art seemed a little, looked like I think I said it looked like a bad Ren Fair cheerleader. Conveniently enough, I'm kind of partial to Lyndon the Scoundrel myself. I like that he's a thief, and he seems like he'll be kind of a smart ass. And
yeah, I was between
he'll steal your gold. I want to get him and the dungeon, what's the little dungeon stealing thief guy?
I don't know.
Tomb Crawler, whatever his name is. I want to get him and Lyndon locked in a room and let them fight. That'd be kind of fun. Like, the two thieves can fight to the death. And no matter who dies, I win.
That's right.
And you'll kill the other one, too.
Okay, so we're not real fond of the followers implementation, and we hope they change it. Other than that, it's great.
Yeah, I guess. So
Except for the things we don't like, we like it.
Yeah, except for everything about how they're done, we actually love the feature. And now we will moo like cows.
Moo.
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 Hi, this is the Diablo podcast, and we are now talking with the Eliminator. And this is his first time on the show, on the podcast. You've seen him in the news page. He's one of the few people who managed to effectively Twitter Bashiok from time to time. And where are you located, I'm
located in Las Vegas.
And you sound like you have a little bit of a New York accent to me, or am I misplacing my East Coast?
No, you're right. I originally came from Staten Island, New York, one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. Staten Island, the home of formerly the largest dump on the world that could be seen from space.
Did you get into Twitter just to try to talk to Bashiok?
Yeah, I really just joined Twitter just so I can send Diablo Twitter page some messages, and I've been fortunate enough to get a couple of answers.
And I often see them posting in the forums and such saying they tweet all day and never get a reply. Is there a special trick? Do you send money? Do you send flowers?
You ask smart questions. You don't ask questions like, when's it coming out?
Yeah, that's less likely to get you on the main page.
Yeah.
And are you still following Twitter? Have you been scared off by all the hashtag, if you were a celebrity, what spell would you cast kind of questions?
Honestly, partially yes.
Who's your favorite class? If you had the game in front of you right now, who would you play?
For Diablo 3, that's a hard question because I haven't really decided. I've already stated in the forums on the site that I'm probably going to end up playing all of the classes in each one of the genders up to like Act 1, to the end of Act 1. And
really? You're going to play each gender as well?
Yeah, just so I could see which one I prefer more. I actually did this in a few of MMOs I've played, and it takes me forever, but I think I find which class I truly like the most and which gender I want to play as.
So you have not decided your first character? Are you just going to load the game up and let your mouse lead you? You're just whatever seems shiniest at that very second?
Probably, I guess, yeah. I'll just do like a close my eyes and swing the mouse around.
Like throwing darts.
Yeah.
You're planning on playing just Act 1, or the early portions a lot. You're not going to charge through the whole game immediately?
Probably not at first. I'll probably just try the Act 1 for a little bit with each of the classes, at least each class once, and then I'll decide from there which one I want to play full all the way through till the end of normal. I'll probably pick 3 of those to just play all the way through with a different follower.
Are you worried about spoilers? Plot spoilers and seeing screenshots of Act 3 bosses or the final game? You're in the forums quite a bit and you're on Twitter quite a bit.
Yeah, I'll probably just stay away for a little while. I'll be like, yeah, just take a peek at things and stay out off the site for a little bit.
Are you going to take vacation and just lock yourself in the house with just you, the game, and the dogs, and a quarter ton of Alpo? And so you're actually not opposed to the follower system?
Actually, no. Originally, I just really didn't like the mercenaries in general. I just didn't like how they kind of detracted from the hero aspect of your character. You just felt like, oh, here's this guy who's just bumming around and stealing my kills. I want to be the hero, not to be the sidekick or have the sidekick who's almost as good as me. I don't know.
So that's actually one of the explanations that I think Jay Wilson or one of the other guys, Leonard Boyarsky, maybe said in some of the interviews, is that you want you to be the hero. You don't want the follower to feel like they're doing all the killing and you're the follower.
Yeah, on the forums, APOC talked about maybe they could do some sort of story epilogue where the followers say you've grown too strong near the end of the game, near the end of like max level. But I'm thinking you could probably pull that off just at the end of normal, since they're supposed to cap out at 25, and max level for normal is 30 anyway. So you're already surpassing them in that category. So you might as well just pull off something like that right there, and just not even have them in Nightmare in Hell.
Yeah, that actually would work with the game fiction to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, and then it would make people feel more like heroes and less like, what they would be,
And the problem that the two guys I just talked to had basically is that this is a really cool feature, and they like that there's lots of skills and customizable and equipment options and everything else, and they have personalities and stories. And then just when you really get to like that, they're gone. You don't get to use them for the end game or even for Nightmare, and really try to power them up and really try to find character builds that would complement them.
True. I mean, what did they say? The explanation why they didn't want to have them really far late in the game because they were afraid people were going to game the system and load them up with Magic Find. But I mean, really, they could just simply make it so whatever Magic Find you put on them doesn't even equate to yours if they really want to do that.
Yeah, which is, I think it might be what they do anyway. Who knows? But,
yeah. I mean, if they're smart, maybe they will.
It seems to be pretty much just there's two viewpoints on this almost, and one is people who liked mercs in Diablo 2 wanted smarter, better, more powerful mercs in Diablo 3. And people who didn't like mercs in D2 or didn't use them are okay with the follower system, because even if they don't like followers at all, at least they know the followers aren't going to be there at the end game, so they're irrelevant even if they do exist.
True. I think it's kind of funny that people that don't like to play online, where some of them were complaining the fact that why do they get penalized, when I'm one of those people that like to play online more than I like to play, I like to play offline more than I like to play online, and I feel the system is fine. I mean that's probably because also the fact that I didn't like the mercs in the first place, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to make it where you can't beat Hell by yourself. I mean, it's going to be tough, but it's going to be tough with extra people anyway if they're not pulling their weight.
Yeah, it sounds like it might actually be tougher with more people if they make things scale up.
Exactly. I mean, you got to take into consideration of stupid people,
Yeah, or stupid mercs. Too.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with the not having the mercs in the multiplayer, because it would just be total anarchy if they had 4 players. What if more than one of them were witch doctors? So you have a ton of pets plus the mercs. It'd be insane.
Well, we were being sarcastic about that in the previous conversation, because my point was, well, imagine if like a Diablo game allowed up 8 players plus mercenaries plus pets. That would be unplayable. That couldn't even ever exist.
Yeah,
oh wait.
That's the way it is.
So what has changed from Diablo 2? We could have 8 players and mercenaries and tons of pets. Necromancers could have like 50 minions, revived skeletons, etc.
I think one of the major things about that though is the effects, the spell effects. They seem to be a lot bigger and more spectacular in D3 that they weren't in D2. So, really, if you had all those effects that they have currently, it's going to be completely mind-blowing Pokemon seizure fest.
Yeah, fans have kind of wanted that to be both ways. There are people who complain there's too many graphics, too much visuals, it's overwhelming. And then now they're like, well, this sucks, we can't have followers in multiplayer. It's like, well, you can't have both arguments.
Yeah, you can't have both ways. And for a lot of people that haven't played the game, they can't even really truly say how it is. You can. You played the game, and you could tell truthfully if you feel that it's too much graphic effects for the spells and stuff like that, or if it's just the right amount. But you can't even comment on what it would be like to have the mercenaries, the followers, because you haven't tried that out yet. So. Yeah,
and the characters we played in the demos at BlizzCon are level 6, 8, 10, 12. It's not like you're dropping level 50 meteors and blizzards and everything else. It's a far cry from the visual overloads of late game.
And you're not running with all the runestones either, so who knows what those will do.
And you're not fighting monsters that have giant, big spell animations either, which you get later on as well.
Yeah, so. You're not dealing with siege breakers. I mean, there's no siege breakers in any of the demos that anybody's played yet.
Yeah, and he doesn't even apparently cast spells, though. I mean, imagine something like Mephisto, where he's casting like blizzards and big curses, and all these minions are spawning during the battles.
I have to say, with all the stuff that they did show about the mercenaries, some of the stuff that I liked the most was just the variety of the Act 1 locations that they had. I think it was really nice to see a bunch of different areas that we've never seen before. Yeah,
that's my constant refrain in screenshot posts. It's like, oh boy, the red dungeon again,
Yeah.
And this one was nice to see. It was odd how much goat killing there was. I mean, my point in the post that someone said they thought was funny, I haven't seen as many goat sacrifices since the Old Testament.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just, it's like goatmen, but they were in different areas, and we got undead and stuff as well, and, I would have looked at just the characters standing in those would have been nice, even without any monsters or action.
Yeah.
Just like, oh my god, new scenery, new landscapes.
I think the reason why they probably had goatmen was because they didn't want to show any more monsters, maybe, than goatmen. Yeah. I mean...
And they were new kinds of goatmen too. I mean, they had, new graphics to them, and we haven't seen the javelin thrower kind, I don't think, except in concept art.
Yeah.
So obviously we kind of know they exist, but yeah, there's lots of... When I was at BlizzCon in 2009, we did the little fan site summit, and we got to visit Blizzard, and we walked through the Diablo 3 area. And they had, where the developers are. And they had like all these big pieces of paper taped over the walls to hide the concept art and stuff. I'm sure there was concept art of demon hunters and such, but they didn't want us to see yet. But the one thing they did let us see, sort of by accident, was this whole long wall that's called the Monster Wall. And Bashiak even posted a picture of that on Twitter at one point. And, of course, this picture was from a super tight sideways angle, so you couldn't really see anything. But, it was like a 30 or 40 foot wall, and the entire thing was covered with concept art and like in-game render versions of all these different monsters. And at least 2/3 of them we'd never seen before. I would have loved to just walk past it with a camcorder, but they were like, please don't look at this too closely and don't write about it if you see anything, etc.
That's one of the things I've asked several times on the Twitter was how many unique monsters do they have? I mean, I'm really curious about that.
They threw out some figures long ago, like they were planning like 100 different types or something. I don't remember. We could probably find the quote if we really looked for it, but there were lots. I mean, we'd seen like, drop in the bucket of the total monster types. And I don't even mean just, palette shifts. I mean, just completely different animated monsters we'd never seen at all. There's lots. I think there was at least, many more than Diablo 2 had.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's pretty much a given. I mean, anything that you'd have from the armor sets that they've talked about to the monsters to the spell effects to everything that they've had, they should have more of it.
I think the 3D tools now allow them to really make, they can make changes. They can get like one kind of zombie, and they can pretty easily make it very fat or very skinny or make it twice as tall. And it's not, as much work as making a whole new monster. You can kind of use the same animations and stuff. But it enables them to do a lot more variety than they had with the sprite-based stuff in Diablo 2. Okay, 2-part question. When you first get Diablo 3, in terms of the followers, are you going to play single player and explore the plot and quests and use a follower, or are you planning to go right into multiplayer and play with other people and never see the followers at all?
I think what I'll do is I'll at least run 3 different classes and try out each one of the followers. And then after that, I'll probably decide to go multiplayer or whatever. And I'm not talking about going all the way past normal at first. I want to try just play normal with 3 classes with each one of the followers, and then decide what I want to do after that.
Yeah, it sounds like from talking to you, because your POV is so different than what the other 2 guys thought. And they were both eager to immediately go to multiplayer on Battle.net and didn't think they'd even see followers until, much later on in the game. Maybe someday when their friend's not around, they might play a single player a little bit. Whereas you are obviously, what you just said. You're looking to play single player and experience with it. So the followers are much more useful for you.
Yeah,
by the way you're planning on playing.
Yeah, even though I'm probably not even going to really need them. But I'll just use them because I want to see how they are, really. And
you weren't a big fan of the Mercs in D2. So it almost seems like the explanations that Bashiak and other people have given for why the followers are the way they are work for you because that's kind of how you felt in the first place.
Yeah.
And if the other two guys were very different in their POV, so all the explanations fell flat to them and meant nothing to them. So I don't know if Bashak's changing anybody's mind with the explanations. He's just, if you're prone to agree with him, you're going to agree with him, and if not, you're not.
I think that's the thing about Bashak. He's so polarizing in people's feelings towards him. Either they really like him, or maybe not really like him, but they tolerate him, and then other people just completely hate him. Everything that comes out of his mouth is like, oh, he's just talking because he's got to cover their PR side,
Yeah, well, that is his job, but but you don't like followers because you think Bashak's groovy. I mean, you like them because of the feature.
Yeah, exactly. I like them because of the feature. I like them a lot more than the mercs, because the mercs, like I said before on the forums at one point, they're like bugs that follow you. They offer no story, no voice, no opinion, and sometimes they just weren't even no help either.
And you're not bothered by the fact that you'll get to like this cool follower and has all these awesome skills, and then you get to Nightmare and he's no longer of any use.
Yeah, because, again, the fact that I like the feeling for my hero to be the hero, not to be, equally sharing the spotlight with some other guy. So I think it's great the fact that, you play him, you try how it is, you feel how the followers is in the normal mode, and then you get close to that top end part of the normal mode, and they start dropping off, and then your hero takes the lead and finishes off the rest of normal and moves on to the rest of the game by himself.
And will that encourage you to go online and play with other people, as they've said?
I really don't think that it would, but I don't know. Maybe, you never know. I really have to wait to see how it feels to be running around with someone else who's somewhat competent, because, as I just said, the mercenaries in D2 weren't competent really at all. So, I don't know. It remains to be seen about that.
People are kind of saying that one of the benefits of having the followers not be available is that it makes the game more difficult, or requires more skill of the player, where you don't have someone else to help you. But as you just said, it could be a lot of skill involved in just keeping the damn merc alive in the first place in D2. So that one kind of works both ways.
Or keeping them next to you.
I mean, I usually used might mercs, like with a Boazon or a Javazon. And I had to use a lot of cold attacks and positioning, and you do stuff to keep the bosses off the mercs and to chill the monsters and such.
Yeah.
But they added so much to my damage that really changed the gameplay. Or you could use, conversely, get like a Holy Freeze merc, and they were very sturdy because everything was slowed down so much, but they did nothing to help your damage. So there was a strategy to them, and it depended on your play style and such. And I like that there's a wider variety of followers in D3. More types of them, and more skills, and you can kind of control how they act because of their skills. But I just feel like it's a missed opportunity not having them be viable in Nightmare and Hell. And that doesn't bother you.
Yeah, not really. I mean, it's interesting. Yes, it is interesting, to have them, and it could be leading to more builds and stuff like that, but we don't know how they'll play. Maybe they won't be as good AI-wise as some of the other, as AI-wise, they probably won't be as good as the mercs, so they'll still get stuck behind walls, still do stupid things, and then you'll still be in the same situation.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't really be an RPG if you didn't have stupid mercenary NPC. Bad AI, I think. It's almost a requirement.
Yeah.
Do you feel that having strong followers would add to the game variety because you can do more different builds knowing you don't have to do all the killing yourself? Or do you feel that, on the other hand, people say that if there are strong followers, then you're almost forced to use them in order to be a powerful character? And therefore that kind of limits your builds, because if you don't want to use a merc, you're kind of gimping yourself by not using this resource.
I think I'd be falling into more of the second option. With a strong merc, you would be forced to use them and use them a certain way, because we all know there's going to be a certain power set, there's going to be certain skills that are going to stand out more than others, and you'll be like, well, I have to have this merc that uses this power, otherwise I'm just not going to do the damage.
Where do you stand on Magic Find, just in general principles?
Personally, I'd rather them not have Magic Find in the game. honestly.
Yeah, that seems to dovetail with your Merc stance, in my view, anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
Because one of the benefits of Mercs is either you can put Magic Find on them, or they're strong enough they can help you with the load, and therefore your own Magic Find can be higher because you don't need so much killing power.
I think the one thing that harkens back to
Harkens, that's a good word. We don't hear that on the podcast much.
One thing that does call back to what someone said earlier, I think it was Bashiak said, the AI will be smarter in targeting what they perceive as being a weaker opponent. So I would imagine if they really say it like that people that have a lot of Magic Find might be perceived as weaker opponents because they don't do as much damage or they don't have as many hit points or whatever that may be, and they'll be the targets that the computer will go for first and try to kill first.
And yeah, and if not that, or at least in addition to that, they will definitely, you can't just stand in the back row and shoot arrows or cast spells indefinitely without being targeted anymore. I mean, that goes for players as well as for NPCs. So